Do you know what like S rank is in games?
No, well, I actually didn't know what like because it's like S and then A B C D, right?
Yeah,
That's how
yeah,
you
yeah.
like
Yeah.
rank stuff on the internet. And I was like, why did
Oh, got it.
I was always like,
Mhm.
why does S come before A?
But I think it's because of games.
But it's like a
Yeah.
Japanese gaming thing, right?
Yeah, originally it was from Japanese games. I can't remember what it means exactly, but they put S before A for some reason and it just stuck. So we still
Damn.
This
use
is
it.
why I'm doing it with him. I had no idea. I totally just guessed.
So it's just it's just a weeb thing, or is
I
it
think it's just a
even?
gaming thing.
Yeah, it's a gaming thing.
But it's bled into like every aspect of ranking shit on the
Yeah.
internet.
Right. S
Yeah, lots
tier.
of other internet. Yeah, S tier, that kind of thing.
Screenagers, welcome back to another edition of the Canon, the only movie podcast giving you the most essential movies watch list. Today we've got a very special episode. I've got two of my good friends joining me. We've got Sean and Sean from the S Rank podcast. Welcome, fellas. You guys are the first non-Saw contributors to appear on the Canon, so
Oh,
Oh,
this is a pretty
wow.
big day.
can you
Yeah.
curse?
Big honor. We try to keep it family friendly, but in the last episode, we sort of took a deep dive into how Andy's mom in Toy Story killed off Andy's father. So
Oh
yeah, I think
my.
we can curse. We
Okay,
definitely we try to keep it family friendly, but we don't always stay that way.
Mm.
good. Just wanted to make sure we could say whatever the hell we want.
Whatever
Do we
the
have to pay
heck.
someone when we
Hey,
drop an F bomb? Do we have to pay someone like $20?
Yeah, there's a swear jar. You can just you can Venmo it to me directly, and I'll make sure that it goes to the right people.
Perfect.
But yeah, dudes, welcome.
dude.
This is exciting.
Thank you. Yeah, good to be here.
Thanks,
Love
yeah.
movies, love content, love entertainment.
I love
Thanks for
that
having us.
for you guys. So the S Rank podcast, right? It's going to be mainly video game focused, sort of video game news and updates and things like that. So naturally brought you guys in for a movie that has no connection to video games whatsoever. Just a standard,
Of course. That's just
yeah,
standard
standard Coen
masterpiece.
Brothers. Yeah.
Standard
You know?
Academy Award winning masterpiece.
Some would say if you're ranking Coen Brothers movies that this would be an S tier movie. So
Mm,
I guess there's
there you go.
that.
Exactly.
But before we get into the movie, Sean and Sean, since that might get a little bit confusing, why don't you guys one introduce yourselves so people can put a Sean to the voice, and then two, sort of talk me through just like what people can expect from the S Rank podcast. I know it's coming soon. Just give us an idea of what we can expect from the show.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Sean One. I'm No Banana Suits, aka No Banana Suits on Twitter and Twitch. I'm a Twitch streamer and a software developer, but for the matters of this, mostly a Twitch streamer. So me and Sean too, Welsh, we both, I since I stream on Twitch and Welsh, I'll let him dive into his own history, but because he has a lot of history in the industry, he's done some voice acting in the industry, he's got a lot of perspective on the industry. We both played games since we were probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 years old, if I had to guess. I think and we've just had like a lot of really deep conversations, just me and him together, me and him on my Twitch stream with my chat, and they've always been like really productive conversations. I think there's like a lot of opinions in the gaming industry that are seen as insular, I guess would be the best way to describe it. And I think our goal is to just kind of take a look at what's happening in the game industry week over week and bring an opinion that might be a little bit more, I don't know, what's the right way to put this, Welsh?
Balance.
Balanced.
Oh.
Yeah.
I was gonna say maybe
Touched
like
grassy.
disruptors, you know?
Yeah, we may have touched grass once or twice in our life.
Hell yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so a lot of things are happening in the gaming industry right now. Like there's Microsoft is trying to merge with Activision. So, we've had a lot of conversations about like, capitalism and monopolies and like how those
Mhm.
things look in the gaming industry. The gaming industry has turned largely into a lot of monetization,
Mhm.
kind of nickel and diming consumers in ways that are very, very predatory. Some of it borderline gambling for children.
Oh yeah.
Um, like
Nice.
there's a lot of things happening. There's a lot of things happening. Voice actors are being harassed by gaming communities off of social media, and I think there's a lot for us to discuss around these things.
Hmm.
And I'm really excited to put out something where the people who aren't harassing can have a place where or a voice, you know, to reflect the opinions of the other side. Because there's a lot of people on the other side. There's a lot of people doing the harassing.
Hmm.
It's I think the best way I can describe it is like Instagram comment gamers. Like if you go on IGN's
Oh yeah.
Instagram comment section and you're watching the trailer of Shang-Chi, the top comment I saw there was, "I'm not woke, but this looks great."
It's important
Okay.
to clarify. You just got to
Yeah.
put it all out there.
You got to
Yeah,
put it out there.
So yeah, I think that's what we're mostly to what to expect from our podcast is going to be talking about weekly industry news in the gaming world, but kind of how does it impact things societally.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm really excited to talk about it. And again, like Welsh, I'll let him jump into his spiel, but he's a voice actor in the industry, and I think he has a really unique perspective on these things.
Oh, thanks, man. That's very nice of you to say. Yeah, I'm Sean too. Sean Welsh Brown. That's my full name. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram at Sean Welsh Brown. I've been an actor professionally for many years. Got into voiceover work, did a lot of audiobooks, some video game stuff, and been a huge fan of gaming and technology and interactive media since I was a kid. And I also transitioned into software development work in the last couple of years. So it's been a fun journey of kind of bringing my passion for technology and my love of the arts and entertainment and video games and all that kind of thing together. So it's been a fun and unexpected journey in life so far. But it's great to have different ways to express that with podcasts and stuff. And the gaming industry has changed so much and continues to change, like in a insane way as it gets bigger and bigger and more mainstream. And I think we see a lot of things where like the old guard kind of clashes with the new guard. There's some generational things, all that kind of stuff. And I think that there's always something to talk about there, which is so interesting to me, as I guess I'm becoming the old guard in a way. I'm 31. Am I old? Am I the old guard now?
Yeah, we're the
I
old
think in
guard.
video game years, that's old.
Yeah.
You're old for
That's
a
the
gamer.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the
Yeah.
industry is only like 50 years old at this point. It's pretty great. We're on the ground floor, man. Getting in there.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Nowhere to go but up.
For sure. And tell them about your tell them about what your biggest gaming credit, your biggest voice acting credit. This is a name that everybody, gamer or not gamer, will recognize this.
I did a couple voices in World of Warcraft, Shadowlands,
Oh, shit.
everybody's favorite expansion. Yeah, can we get an air horn sound effect in the background?
Shit. Yeah, we'll have our producers at it in post.
Yeah, I did a couple voices there. That was a ton of fun. I've played that game literally for actually half my life at this point. So being able to kind of lend my talents there and hear myself in game was super cool. Got another credit that's still under wraps at the moment, some NDAs and whatnot, so I can't share too much about that, but always auditioning. Yeah. I'll mute myself and then I'll
what kind of game is it?
Oh, entrapment.
Dude, he's trying to get the journalistic exclusive here.
Oh, you're trying to get the first tweet.
We're trying to get
Tweet on the market.
scoops. Trying to get scoops.
Oh, this is a
I want to
scoop
get into
podcast.
the business of news breaking. That's what I'm here for.
I
mean, yeah,
breaking
I know
news. Breaking news. Old Country, No Country for Old Men. Good movie.
First things first, all you need is a Twitter
Can
Blue
confirm.
subscription, and then
This just in, this movie kicks ass. Is there like a timeline for when this game is coming out that you can share? Like, when can people expect it? Just so I don't know.
They'll have to follow the S Rank podcast.
I'll be talking about it on there. That's one of the crazy things about the game industry is the size and the scale of these projects. So often they are in development for like many years, like 5 or 6 or 7 years per game, and so I legitimately have no idea. I could have lent my voice to something that I won't even see a trailer for I don't know, another like 2 or 3 years or something like that. You never know.
So are you saying that all of our listeners, they should just buy every video game that comes out between now and the next 7 years and hope
It's
that they'll maybe find you
it's
in
the
one of
only
them?
way to be sure. It's the only way to be sure. You just have to
Awesome.
buy them all. Yeah, everything on Steam, every single release. That's dangerous.
That's very dangerous.
There's some weird stuff out there.
That'll bankrupt a lot of people.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I
But
do
yeah,
not
well,
recommend it.
we're hoping to launch our first episode really soon, where we're just kind of getting our feet on the ground, getting reserving the handles, getting some art done. I think we're trying to record this week, so hopefully by the time this episode's up, we'll at least have something up on S Rank Podcast on Spotify and Apple Music, and you can also always keep up with us at twitch.tv/NoBananaSuits, where I'll be probably talking about this nonstop.
Welsh, is there any Twitch streaming in your future? Can we expect to see you? Will S Rank sort of have like its own separate Twitch stream, or do we just have to keep dealing with the No Banana Suit stream for the time being?
Yeah, that's a good question.
That's trash.
I
need something new. I need a new stream.
I need some fresh blood.
Yeah.
I've considered it. I've given it some thought. I'm inching closer and closer towards it, I think, because I love playing games, and I love having my friends watch and chatting about it and stuff. So I feel like Twitch is the evolution.
Having your
of that,
friends
I
watch
guess.
You play games, right? That's what you meant.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Nothing else.
They can watch whatever they want. Yeah, I'll just keep.
I think that's
I
I think that's one of the biggest benefits of Twitch. Actually, is it's similar to like how when you see a movie, right, and like you really love a movie so much that you want to share it with people in your life, right,
Mm-hmm.
and you get to watch them, like you're sitting on the couch with them and you're like watching them watch your favorite part. You're not even like watching the movie.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
people get a lot of that out of Twitch. Like when they have a streamer that they really like, and they get to watch them play like certain games that they're in their top 5, right? They'll just like wait for people to react to those specific parts and see if they like it or not. It's cool. A lot of people will browse by games and just try and find their masterpieces, right? And just watch people react to those things.
It's so much about that parasocial kind of thing of like, you feel like you're hanging out with someone. You're watching them, you're listening to them, you might be interacting with them through the chat. It's great. I think it's a really cool. I've always thought it was a really cool thing, even though I, didn't start getting into it until Mr. Banana Suits here started getting into it.
I've been telling him to stream. You should definitely try and get into it. I think you'd be great.
A nice camera. I gotta get a ring light. Man. Oh, thank you. You guys are so sweet. Dude. You guys are gassing me up.
Dude, that's what we're here for. But I guess not in the meantime, but like Deshaun said, the S Rank, not S Tier podcast coming soon. Maybe this week, maybe next week. But if you're interested in, sort of gaming news, gaming updates, and you want to hear like real thoughtful, insightful conversations, these are the dudes to go to for that kind of stuff, instead of just like XYZ game is coming out in a week, what will we think of the gameplay? Like, obviously I'm assuming there will be that kind of stuff too, but you guys are going to be taking a more in-depth sort of really thoughtful, intellectual kind of conversations around these things, which is super cool. I don't know if that's out there, but it'll be cool for the gaming industry to have a show like this. So I'm excited.
We're definitely.
I don't even fucking game. I don't game.
We're definitely the first people to do it. I think there's no other podcast.
This is actually the first movie podcast. So
yeah, exactly. See, we're trying to follow that trend.
The first gaming podcast. Oh my god, what else is there? We gotta get on it.
Cast on the market.
Yeah.
There are definitely no news podcasts or anything. Like maybe we can just do that. We'll just report on the daily news. I don't think anyone's.
We could call it like it'd be like a daily show.
Oh yeah, we could call it like the Daily, right? Yeah, the Daily Show. With I mean, I'm just like throwing names out there, but like Jon Stewart, I don't know.
It's a guy. He might be good at it. You might be good at it.
We can get him, I think.
That's my buddy from middle school. I feel like he'd be good. But yeah, dudes, anything else that folks need to know about S Rank? You guys are on all the socials, so people can follow you there.
Yeah, at this very moment, it's probably more beneficial to follow mine, but we will be up and running on everything soon. So I would say look for us on the podcast platforms by the time you hear this, and podcast platforms, and then No Banana Suits on Twitter and Twitch. Yeah.
we'll certainly be on the lookout for it.
And the last thing I'll say, and this might be a decent transition, is that I think a lot of people don't know or don't realize that, and I think people are starting to realize this, right? Like with the release of the Last of Us TV show and how cinematic it was, or how cinematic it is. I think people are awakening a little bit to that. The notion that games aren't all Mario in 1994, and that a lot of games now, especially big budget ones, are very cinematic experiences.
Mm-hmm.
The Last of Us show is a very faithful recreation of the game. I had multiple people text me while they were watching that, and they said, "Wait, this happened? This stuff happened in the game?"
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of people don't connect that like these experiences can be very mature, very cinematic, and very well written. So I think we're starting to see more of a gap bridge between game director and movie director.
Yeah, for sure.
It's its own art form, right? And like I feel like for most of its history, people haven't seen it as that, but it can be. Video games can be high art, right? It can translate into something similar to No Country for Old Men, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So actually, my first question was going to be for you guys, like, is this a movie that you could somehow see translating into a video game form, or like do you see any sort of like similarities between, I guess we'll get into this with recommendations, but like between this movie and like any games that you guys have played?
That's an interesting question. I think that while this particular story would probably be pretty hard to translate, one to one, I think that something that games do very compellingly is, that by nature they're interactive. There's something that you kind of have to make the choice to, move forward in the story to carry out an action. I think that this movie has, it's a lot about morality and about, kind of like making the right choice, not making the right choice, what the consequences of that are. And I think it's interesting, like in a gaming sense, kind of, a branching narrative or something that's a bit heavier where it's like, like, would you walk your character forward into that, scene of bodies in the desert? Like, would you make the choice to like take a thing, to leave a thing?
Yeah.
I don't know. It could make a very interesting kind of like short form interactive media, which I think would be really cool.
Yeah, maybe like an Anna. How do you pronounce it? Annapurna.
Annapurna Interactive. They do.
There's
really
a
great
developer called Annapurna, and they have
they make films too. Actually, they have.
Yeah, they make the movies
they're like
too.
an indie movie studio.
Yeah, and their last couple games have just been like really cool, like really experimental, swing of the bat type stuff. Their biggest one recently was Stray, which is just a story about a cat. You just play as a cat for like 6 hours.
Yeah.
In like a post-apocalyptic world kind of thing. And then they did one where called 8 minutes, I think 8 minutes or 12 minutes, where it's like
some amount of minutes. Yeah.
The main voice is like Willem Dafoe, and you just have like this clock is just like ticking for 12 minutes, and like by the time the 12 minutes are up, you will like die to an in-game event. But you have like 12 minutes to like solve the mystery of like how to stop it, and like every time you like solve one piece of this, like you have to solve the next. Like, oh, like it starts, you pick up the phone, someone says something, you can choose like A or B, you hang up, you die because you said the wrong thing, you pick up, you say the other thing, now you can go like one step further. But then you die for something else. So it's like if you can get the right steps all done within the 12 minutes, then you beat the game. But like you have to figure out this giant puzzle that just keeps looping.
Yeah.
So
do you give the guy water in the truck or not?
Yeah, stuff like that.
Do you go back? Do you
right?
Where do you put the gun that you pick up? Do you put it underneath your trailer, or do you like take it into the house with you? Take it into the house, then you die. Yeah.
What's that one? There's another game like that.
I was gonna say, did you ever play the Telltale games, like the Walking Dead Telltale game? That was like very much choose your own adventure. I feel like that.
Everyone loves those. I haven't, but everyone loves them.
I think they actually went under. Rest in peace. The company shut down.
They went under, and then they got brought back.
Oh, did they? Oh, good.
Yeah, I think they got brought back.
Oh, that's great.
Zombie company.
Literally.
That's all I have on that.
Yeah. No, I think like one for one, it might be tough to like make this into a game, but I mean, it could be cool. Like, I think it's the biggest challenge is the perspective changes, the perspective shifts, because they're pretty rapid. I feel like in this movie.
Yeah.
But there's also it doesn't mean it couldn't work.
There's the question of also like, again, going back to morality and the changing of perspectives, you've got in this movie, you've got a very iconic villain, which I'm sure we'll talk
Yeah.
about here at length. And it's like,
Right.
you know, can you empathize with someone like that? Like if you were playing a game version of this and you have to play as Anton Sugar, like, you know, could you, would you want to do that, or would you want to just like put the controller down? You know what I mean?
Right. And it's funny because thinking about perspective changes, no spoilers, but like The Last of Us Part 2 is a game that
Mhm.
has a massive perspective change
Big time.
about halfway through the game, and then you switch back about in the last third. So it's like it's like whatever, 60 or 50, 40, 40, 20, I guess.
Yeah. Something like
And but
Math.
basically like in the game, right, you're allowed to like spend 10 hours with this character, perspective change, 10 hours with this character, perspective change back for another couple hours. But like that, I don't think that works in TV or like a movie. And I think I'm very interested to actually see how they adapt that to like Last of Us Part 2.
Mhm.
So I think that's a similar challenge that we'd see in the season 2. But I think that's a similar challenge that this movie would have, right? It's like figuring out how to splice up perspective is very difficult for a movie to game, because you are afforded like way more time because you're like playing a level with a character, right?
Mhm.
So like you kind of like are the character for like long bits of time, and in a movie
Yeah.
and TV, you're like
You're just
you're
watching it.
experiencing, you're watching the
Yeah.
character. Yeah.
I think you see the same issue happen a lot with adaptations of books and, you know, written media into film or television too. Cause it's like, you know, with a book, you have potentially hundreds of pages where you're inside the character's head, you know, seeing their motivations, hearing it, all that kind of thing. And then you're like, all right, we got to get this in like, you know, 240 in the can on film, like at the most. Otherwise, you know, even that's like pushing it. So it's always tough to kind of, yeah.
Okay, I think that you open up the door for what was going to be my next question. So,
Mhm.
Welsh, you had read No Country for Old Men
Yes,
in
sir.
book form, but
Mhm.
you
Well,
hadn't
and
seen the movie.
I read the Wikipedia for the book.
Okay,
There you
you
go.
step aside for a second. Step aside. This is a Welsh question. So you had read the book, but you'd never seen the movie until you watched it for the purposes of the show.
Yes, sir.
So obviously the big question for the rest of us, because I think like I would say like 95% of people are only familiar with the story in the movie form, and not the book form, and you fall into this very special category of folks who, you know, only knew the story as a book, and then you later on came to it as a movie. So I was
Mhm.
wondering what your thoughts were in terms of like how it was adapted, if it's
Yeah,
true to
yeah.
the book form, or if there were interesting changes. Just sort of talk me through how you thought it related to the actual book.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I wish I could go into the more of the specifics of it. I read the book a long time ago. But it is funny
Kind of
that
messed up you didn't reread it, but okay.
in the last, you know, week, just blast through it.
Yeah.
Um, no, it is interesting because like at the time I don't really know why I didn't see the movie. I know, you know, most other people that I knew did, and you know, obviously it was huge in the media, but I think I was on a kick at that point in my life. I was probably, I guess, like 18 or 19 or something like that, where I was getting back into reading for the first time in years after, you know, high school kind of like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, smacked the love of it out of
Yeah.
me. And I was finding it again. And funny enough, one of the first things that I wound up reading as like a teenager was Cormac McCarthy's The Road, which is, you know, like one of the bleakest, like heaviest things on the planet. And I read that and I loved it. And I was like, oh my God, yeah, I forgot books can tell like, you know,
Oh, that's the
freaking.
same author.
Yes, sir. Yes, it is.
Oh,
Yeah, it
okay.
makes a lot of sense, doesn't it?
Okay. I
Um,
still I haven't read The Road either, but
yeah.
I do really want to read that.
Yeah. And I read that book and, you know, I was kind of like going through a bunch of different things and I hadn't seen the movie. I didn't know anything about it aside from just, you know, people talking about like the cool spooky villain and, you know, like the general Texas setting. And I read it and it's so interesting to watch this movie now as a grown man versus as like a teenager,
Mm-hmm.
because I liked the story, you know, I liked the moment to moment, but I didn't, I always say like, I don't think I got it. I honestly don't think I really got it. Cause like
Yeah.
my takeaway at the time was like, oh, cool. Yeah. Like there was like, you know, this desert stuff, like a drug deal. There was some gunfighting, but like the overarching themes of like the world changing out from under your feet and, you know, like evil being recognized like in your life and around you, all that kind of thing. I just didn't get it, you know? And I was like, yeah, I don't really know how this could make like a cool movie. Cause like, there's just a lot of like this slow thinking about stuff. And which is so funny. Cause like, yeah, like now at the time I'm like, oh man, like that was the coolest part about it. Like it was so heavy and just made you think about like, life and like getting older and like seeing things change and you didn't even notice that they were changing. I think the movie, it really is remarkable. Like they painted that picture so beautifully. I think like with the cinematography, the setting, like bringing Cormac McCarthy's characters are like very, very stoic. They tend to be like, not really thinkers per se. They're more like
Yeah.
doers.
Yeah.
And I think that's works really well on screen. And I think that they did a great job of that, especially, I almost said Ethan Hawke. That's a totally different man. Josh Brolin's character, like he's just kind of a doer. He's just someone who he's not thinking too much about it. He just sees something happen and he just makes a decision.
And he just does
Yep.
it.
Yeah.
Him and Sugar Earth are like two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
Where they're both just like
coin.
they both just
Oh,
do.
dude,
Like,
the coin.
Oh yeah. Oh my god, I didn't even make that connection. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Oh shit, dude. That's pretty cool.
Oh shit.
Dude.
That's heavy.
But they really are in that way of like they just do it. They just do, right? There's no hesitation on either of them, and that's what makes their cat and mouse interactions like so not inspiring, like engaging. Like you're so engaged by it. It's because you
it's
don't
kind
know,
of all
you
like
literally
instinct.
don't
Like
you don't know who's gonna win.
Yeah, and that cat and mouse aspect is 100% there in the book. I remember that much, and like, but again, like I was so in there for the moment to moment stuff that like when it was kind of like the deeper meaning of like what the hell is this even about, just really went over my head as a teenager. And it's so funny I really want to read it again now to be like, and it's not like I'm an old man like looking back on my life, but it's like your perspective changes on things, and it's like, oh yeah, like I get it now. It's like, damn, dude, things change, man. Like, oh,
it's wild.
Crazy. Yeah, it's wild.
Is the I want to circle back on one thing that you said, but is the book told through the perspective of is it Ed Bob or what's his name?
Ed Tom.
What's his last name? Bell?
Ed Tom Man in Black.
Agent K.
Ed Tom Jones. Yeah.
Ed Tom Agent K.
That is a good question that I wish I could answer. I actually forget.
Okay.
I think it's like kind of just a omniscient narrator kind of thing. I can't remember if it's he's kind of given that position in the book or not. I think it's more kind of like your moment to moment. You're just with the characters.
Just these dudes, these guys are just being
like and like things. The hunter looked down the hill and saw this and that kind of thing. It's kind of like you're following in the moment with them.
Interesting. So the other thing I wanted to circle back on that you mentioned, you were talking about some of the performances, and I think we'll get to the obvious one a little bit later. But a question for Sean 1. I don't really like the numbering system.
We can switch to Banana.
Okay. Question for Sean Banana. On the topic of Josh Brolin. Are you at the point in your life, because you're a big Marvel stan, are you at the point where whenever you watch Josh Brolin in a movie that you just hear Thanos?
Oh yeah. But what's funny is this was the first time where I didn't. This was the first time where I was like hearing him, and I think it was the accent, because I think like he has a lot of like deep undertones in his inflections in his voice that really shine. Like his Thanos voice is kind of just like his speaking voice. Mm-hmm. So I think when he's going for the "well, don't worry, sugar, I'll be back," like I think like a lot of that gets lost.
Country Thanos.
Country Thanos, yeah. No country for old Thanos. But I think a lot of his voice, a lot of that stuff, a lot of that gets lost.
All right, cool.
Yeah. Do you still hear it? Like, do you hear Thanos in all of his new stuff or his old stuff?
I hadn't thought about it until you mentioned that to me, that anytime you see him in a movie, that's all you hear. And I think in the opening scene, or like the earlier scenes when he was when he's like first hunting the deer or whatever, and stumbles upon the massacre, the drug deal gone wrong. In that moment, I could hear it, but I guess for the rest of the movie, it sort of went away, because he kind of does sort of put on that big country accent.
Right.
Can you guys see Tommy Lee Jones as anyone other than Agent K?
No,
I only see him as Tommy Lee Jones, to be honest. Like
it's that
he's he's so unique. Like he's such an incredibly unique guy that it's like every time he pops up.
The second the movie ended, I watched it with a friend, and I was just like, we need one last Tommy Lee Jones banger.
We really do. Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Is this his last one? Is this the last one that we've had?
I
Is
don't know. I'm
it?
trying to think. Last thing I remember seeing him in was
I'll do a number
Lincoln,
crunch.
Lincoln with Daniel Day-Lewis.
Oh, he did that. That was after this, I think,
That was
right?
after
Yeah, I
this?
think so. Yeah,
Okay.
that's a great movie that I never need to see again as long as I live.
He's one of those awesome actors where when you go to his Wikipedia, you have to click this. You have to click the separate filmography page.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
it
yeah.
takes you- it
Josh
takes you
Brolin
another
has
page.
one too. I was looking it up after this, and it's like Josh Brolin filmography.
Okay,
I was
he
like, oh,
he does have 2 more movies coming out.
nice.
One's filming
Men in Black 5.
called Finest Kind. 2 estranged brothers hatch a deal with a Boston crime syndicate, which spells danger for the brothers and their father, as well as a mysterious young woman.
Ooh,
Who's the
And
director?
the director is
Tommy Lee Jones.
Brian Helgeland.
Oh, wow.
Dude, I love Brian.
I don't know who that is.
No idea who
And
that is.
the burial with him and Jamie Foxx.
Ooh,
In 1995, Willie E. Gary, an unconventional personal injury lawyer with an impressive track record, helps bankrupt funeral homeowner Jeremiah Joseph O'Keefe sue the Lowen Funeral Company, led by Raymond Lowen. As a result of a contractual dispute, Gary ultimately won $500 million jury verdict, and the Lowen Company filed for bankruptcy. Well, I like that they just spoiled them.
Tommy Lee Jones and Jamie Foxx is an interesting combo, but
that is an interesting combo.
I kind of like it. I don't hate
Oh,
it.
and there's the Jesse Smolier's sister is in it.
Oh wow,
Oh yeah, she's in a lot of stuff.
I
She's
didn't know he had a sister.
yeah, she's in a ton of stuff. All right, but back to No Country for Old Men.
Yeah.
And these 3 dudes. So we've talked about the other 2, but the big elephant in the room is obviously Javier Bardem's Anton
Sugar,
Chigurh.
yeah.
I've been saying Sugar.
Is this the top 5, top 3, top 1 movie villain of all time? Like, this dude is terrifying. And
I think so.
Bardem's performance is just like insane.
He's like the most like realistic like interpretation of like the Joker, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Where he just like
Mhm.
he just has
Yeah.
he has no emotion at all.
Yeah.
And he's like an AI if an AI went rogue.
He's
Yeah,
like the Terminator, right?
Yeah, he's like the Terminator, and it's like,
Yeah.
But
it's
worse.
like I have to kill her. Why? Because I said I would. You know what I mean? It's like
yeah.
it's so robotic.
The thing that so many people like get, not necessarily wrong, but like, it's hard to portray about psychopaths, like true psychopathy, is like, they're often portrayed as like, oh, they're just crazy. They're like maniacal. They're like, whacked out of their mind. But it's like, true psychopathy is really terrifying because like these people have like their own kind of moral code and like
Mhm.
reasons in their own head that make sense for why they behave the way they do. That's just how they perceive the world. And it's
Right.
like, he goes through all of this, like, he's not just willy-nilly killing everybody. It's like he kind of has this like way of selecting what he's going to do. And, he's like his whole thing is like, I'm just following, like fate put me in front of this person. And like, I flipped a coin and the coin chose, it wasn't me, like that kind of thing. Like, or, just vindictive about, Llewellyn and his wife, being like, oh, I didn't even really want the money. It was just like, he pissed me off,
I love, yeah. And it's like, they put in these little pieces of him. They show you these little pieces of him that kind of like break off of his like his roboticness, right? Where
Mhm.
like he flips the coin for the guy in the gas station, and then when he's leaving, the guy goes to put it in his pocket, and he goes, "No, don't put it in your pocket,
Don't put it
because
in
then
your
it'll just get
pocket.
messed around with all the other coins,
Yeah.
and they'll just become another coin." And then he goes,
Which it is.
"Which it is?" And then he turns around, I'm like,
And he gives like
He
a
raises
little
his eyebrows.
sly
He's like,
smile. Yeah.
and he made himself laugh. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like he was just about to murder this dude.
Yeah.
And it's like, and now he's like joking around with him. And
Yeah.
these like little cracks, like these little crack moments where it's like, it just shows you like this dude is super robotic, super emotionless, but he just has these little cracks that even break his own crazy psyche, where he's just a loose cannon. Like those things, and one thing that really stood out to me, where it's like, just like the scene of him pulling over, like he's just driving, he just pulls over, sees a crow, shoots at it, and then just
That
keeps
was
driving.
amazing. Yeah, he just
Like
target practice, like
What?
that. Just he just decided to try and kill this thing because I don't know. It was like looking at
and
him funny or
that's
just
like the
making
whole
noise.
scene. It's like an 18-second scene.
I
Yeah,
did I miss this part?
Dude, there's like a quick scene where he's just driving. He's going over a bridge. He sees a crow on the bridge chilling, stops, shoots at it, and just keeps driving. And that's
just
the whole
for kicks.
scene.
Yeah, that kind of thing. I think the Coen brothers really nailed so strongly in like the transition from book to screen. I think
It's like
like
what is an actual psychopath?
yeah, like how do you depict someone
Right.
like thinking about this stuff like before they choose to make these
Yeah,
decisions? That's crazy.
because it's not just. Well, I feel like you kind of touched on this, but like it's not just like anarchy for the sake of anarchy. It's not just going around killing people willy nilly because he has no regard for human life. He, in a way, like weirdly respects it,
Hmm.
and he like respects it so much that he almost like feels like he's like an arbiter who's there to keep people in line.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
trying to think of like which scene is the most telling about his character, because the opening scene where he's super meticulous about just like killing the cop and getting away is amazing. The scene with the dude in the gas station is like
Iconic.
incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, this and then the scene where after he gets shot and you see like how meticulous he is about removing the bullet and like putting the bandages on. I can't. I mean, I guess it must be the gas station scene. I'm going to tell you guys something. So I rewatched this movie in not ideal and a less than ideal setting. I rewatched it on a plane. I'm very against watching like
Interesting.
good movies on planes, but it was
Mm.
really the only time that I had to check it out. And during that gas station scene, I think I was gripping the legs of both people next to me. I was in a middle seat. I'm pretty sure I was just grabbing onto their thighs, like, "Oh my god, guys, what the hell is gonna happen?" Even though, like, should know that the dude is gonna be fine. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, dude, like, what a well written character.
I
I
think I think for me, like the thing that stuck out, and I love little organic moments like this, where he breaks into Llewellyn's trailer to try and find him, and he's not there, and there's just this moment of him kind of like looking around. Then he just opens the fridge and takes out the milk and just like sits down on the couch. And there's that scene of him like looking at the TV with like the window reflecting behind him and the bottle of milk in front of him. And it's almost like he's pretending to be Llewellyn. Like he's almost like sitting there pretending to be someone else because he's nobody. He's a ghost. There's like that, the way you're seeing his reflection was just like, oh, give me goosebumps. I don't know. Maybe
well,
that just hit me in
I
a certain
think it
way.
was like it's also a good like this is just so normal for him that his thought was like, let me grab some milk. Like nothing he was doing was like out of his ordinary thought process.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
was like, yeah, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm here. I'm doing this. Let me get some milk.
yeah. And
You know what I mean?
he
Like, let
just,
me sit
yeah,
down and have some milk.
just that's like one of the things about
Like we would
psychopaths
come
and
home from work and like sit down at the table and like get the mail and like turn the TV on. You
yeah,
know what I
yeah.
mean? He came in, got the mail, sat down with some milk, looked over the phone bill. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah, yeah,
it's crazy.
yeah.
Yeah,
With like psychopaths and serial killers and a lot of people who commit crimes like this, there's like the sense of they didn't choose to be here either, so they're kind of like, this is just how I am, how I perceive the world and how I'm going through it. And anyone
And
who gets in my way is like it's their fault.
and I kind of wonder if there's like a very particular choice of him having his weapon, his like signature weapon be like the bolt pistol for cattle,
Mm,
because there's that whole chunk where like Tommy Lee Jones is talking about how you never see it coming, like it's kind of like the most humane way to put down a cattle, like they used to shoot them and now they use this. And I kind of wonder if like he looks at that as being merciful,
yeah,
like
yeah.
using that weapon to kill in like the most innocent of people, like the most innocent of people die and the thing in the movie die that way,
Mm.
at least
hmm
in a couple scenes. And I kind of wonder if like he views it as that, like it's like maybe make it quick for them, like that's him being good.
he also has like a weird aversion to violence and blood. Like in the
Yeah,
opening scene when
cleaning
he's
his
choking the
shoes.
cop out, he like looks. So, I don't know if it's just like he doesn't want blood like squirting into his eyes, but like he doesn't. He looks away while he's choking the guy out. And then there's the scene in the motel where he
Takes
has
his
the
socks
random
off.
shootout. Well, he takes his socks off, but I think that's just to be quiet. But then when he kills the random guy in the bathtub,
Yeah,
he
closes
he
the.
closes the shower curtain. And I don't know if that's to avoid splatter or because he kind of like looks away. So it's like
Yeah, yeah.
he's like oddly like against the violence that he is inflicting on others while like feeling like he needs to do it, which is just
Yeah,
another sort of weird layer of
yeah, yeah. It's
like
like,
who he is as a
I
character.
I'm
I
not
could
getting
I
any
could
pleasure from this,
I
like.
could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that he took his socks off after he killed the dude in the shower. He like sits down on the bed and is like, "Whew,"
Oh
and
yeah, yeah.
like takes his socks off and he's like, "Ugh."
I'm thinking of when he takes his shoes off to
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
to sneak up to the room.
He takes his socks off and like throws them to the side, and he just gives like a vibe of like, blah, blah.
like
You
he's
know what I mean? Like
skeeving out,
yuck,
like
yucky.
oh yucky,
Yeah,
Yucky.
there's
Yeah, yeah.
blood,
yeah, yeah.
and it's gross.
And no, and then he checks his shoes when he leaves. What's her name again? Carla Jeans.
Oh yeah, so he
He's
killed her,
just-
right?
I'm assuming that that's what the implied notion of
With
him
the shoe
checking his
check.
shoes
Yeah.
was. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do wonder though, like that's something that it was kind of cool to not necessarily see him, like pull the trigger and light her up or whatever. Is
because
like,
he's shown mercy before. We've seen it.
yeah,
Right.
and like she kind of questions his authority or his perceived like cosmic authority by being like, like, no, I'm not going to pick a side of the coin. Like you're making the decision, not the coin. And he kind of looks at her like you see that mask crack a bit. He's like,
It's
What are you
another
talking
amazing.
about?
It's amazing. It's another amazing line that shows like another crack in his psyche, where similar to the line of which it is, like it's just another coin. He says to her, "But me and the coin guy here the same way."
yeah. There are like stories of like serial killers and psychopaths and stuff in actual history who like have let people live who they were about to kill because something that person said or did like just put them off. They were like, ugh, like no, like they played by the rules or they broke a rule or something like that, like a rule, quote unquote, for like how they're going to go about doing things. And like it's wild, like that kind of thing does happen where you can just be like, they put me off, like I wasn't in the mood anymore. So, I got up and walked out of the house. It's like it's crazy, like it's just getting inside the head of someone. I think that's why it's such a brilliant portrayal by Javier Bardem and his haircut. Do you think it would work as well without the haircut?
No,
No, it was perfect.
not
That
at
psycho,
all.
weird, like childish bowl cut. It was so
Yeah,
weird.
like did he choose that haircut? Like the character, you know what I mean? Like did he go to the barber? Or did he do it himself? Like that's the question.
Yeah, next time we get haircuts, we should just hop in and say, "Give me the Anton sugar."
Give me the Prince circa like 1652.
Yeah,
give me the Llewyn. Oh, how do you say Llewellyn?
Llewellyn.
Llewellyn.
Yeah.
Give me the Llewellyn.
Give me the Tommy Lee.
Llewellyn.
Yeah, dude,
You
it's like
coming back?
it's this great like double game of cat and mouse. It's like cat and mouse or like cat and mouse, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But then, and I don't know. I'm trying to like find the actual connections between Tommy Lee's character and Bardem's character in terms of like
Yeah.
how they go about their hunting of prey.
Mm.
Because it is like there are a lot of. I feel like you guys pointed out that there are a lot of similarities between Josh Brolin's character and Bardem's character, but then Tommy Lee's character sort of exists on his own plane, even though he is intertwined with the two of them. I don't know if you guys saw any sort of parallels between his character and the other guys or not.
Yeah, I think that's a really fair point, and an interesting observation. Like Tommy Lee Jones's character is like, representing like the old guard, the imagined kind of like the good old days. He kind of like embodies, the good old days of like, back when, people said sir and ma'am and, they didn't act up and, do all sorts of crazy things like this. Despite the fact that, people have always done that. And that's kind of one of the sticking points in like the final scene where he's visiting a friend, or I'm not sure exactly who that guy in the wheelchair was.
I think it was his uncle.
Yeah. It's like, he goes through his life just, carrying out the law, trying to, do what he can as, I guess he tries to be a good person and just like can't comprehend that, like, despite seeing, crime, he's just like, he can't believe that someone like this could really exist, which is just like wild. I'm trying to draw that back to, like their connection and like their different ways of, it's interesting.
It's he's like weirdly almost there to be like a point of failure where it's like,
Yeah. Like the
like
system didn't work.
he loses the most, I think, in the movie because he fails everybody, right? He doesn't catch Shigurth. He isn't able to save Llewellyn.
Mhm.
Like he isn't, both tasks that he was set out to do, he failed in both ways. It's like really interesting. And he kind of he chalks it up at the end of saying, I feel outmatched, which I think was like you said, kind of like a changing of the guard moment of the times. But then the uncle says to him, he tells him the story of
Mhm.
I
It
don't
was
remember what their
his like
relationship
great
was.
great uncle or something like that.
Yeah, who was like also the sheriff around the same area, and how he ended up getting like murdered by
Yeah, like a gang.
outlaws.
Yeah, on his
And they're
front
saying that
porch.
like this is kind of saying like, this place has like always been really violent. So I think it's kind of like it's like a look at like how do you adapt to times,
Yeah,
um and what does like failure to adapt look like almost.
I think it's interesting. Like this particular time period in which it's set, I looked it up. It's 1980, I believe.
Yeah,
Is a very interesting time in American history and in like the world where, you know, things like television, global media, like all these sorts of things were really becoming a bigger deal, and people were just communicating more, and like people were starting to see more. Like the Vietnam War had just happened recently,
yeah,
where like you were seeing war for the first time on television, and that's also like the 70s into 80s is when serial killers actually became like classified by the FBI, because it was like, oh, suddenly we're communicating enough that like we can recognize that these people are out there, and like they've always been out there. But that was the period of time where like we were talking about it for the first time. It was like, oh, crap, wait, like these crimes are being committed. Like this would never have happened, back in my day. But in reality, it's
yeah.
like that was always there. It's just that like now, like, there's television, there's media. And I think we look back at 1980 now, you watch it and you're like, oh, this is like an old period piece. But you have to remember, like, all the old dudes on camera in that time period were like, this is, the future, the no good future where, like everything's falling apart and, this and that. And it's a really interesting time in American history. I think that this paints such a good picture of that.
And I think there's like the other, like going back to like the points of failure that happened in the movie. I think it's a really interesting choice. I'm assuming this happens in the book too, but that Llewellyn just like dies so abruptly off screen.
Yeah.
Like, you
What a
know what I mean?
bummer.
Not even by Shigurth. Like, like he was so efficient at everything he was doing, but he failed to adapt at like one step,
Hmm.
and that was it. And it was over.
Beer
It's a
leads to
wrap.
more beer.
Beer leads to
Yeah.
more beer. I was actually
Yeah.
confused about that too. I was like, if I had to give like a critique, I guess, for something, it would be like the last kind of act of the movie felt a bit rushed, in terms of just
Mhm.
how that stuff played out. I was like, whoa, oh my god, he's dead.
So
What's going on?
But
does it not
I feel like that's very
happen in it?
intentional. I feel like
Mm.
him dying so abruptly was like, it was almost like a this is all it's worth kind of moment.
Yeah, for sure. Like it does hammer home that sense of like, what is the value of a life? Like really at the end of the day.
Or like what is the cosmic fate of all of this?
Yeah.
And like is it up to Shiger, or is it up to something truly higher than the coin, Shiger, and all that stuff? Like is there something else sort of operating? But yeah,
The
I feel like it
Mexicans.
and in the end, Mexicans. But no, I mean, if it doesn't happen that way in the book, then right, I think we can look at that as a super intentional choice by the Coen brothers, and it's probably a good chance for us to talk about them a little bit more and
Yeah.
sort of the history that they bring. Because they are they're super unique in terms of their filmography and like the kinds of movies that they make, but they do have like a deep history in sort of dark comedies.
Mm.
And
Right.
this movie plays super straight. Like this is like a straight up sort of crime thriller drama. But because it's the Coen brothers, I think there's a way to watch this movie with a sort of comedic undertone,
Hmm.
and like the line about the coin just becoming one. And I think like how abrupt Llewellyn's death ends up being is like sort of a cheeky joke from the Coen brothers. Like they've been playing with they're playing with like crossfades throughout the whole movie, and it's really just like a way to transition from like one set of characters to another. But then they do that crossfade at the end, and then it sort of just like quickly cuts to black, and then it cuts back in, and it's the Mexicans driving away after shooting up Llewellyn, and like they're playing with like what they were setting up for us the whole movie.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
just like this, the whole story with Anton, like the chase and the cat and mouse game, and then it all just ends like that. And I feel like that's kind of them sort of playing one big joke on us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I
that's a
agree.
good point. It is funny. Like I did actually laugh a couple of times during the movie.
Oh, dude,
Yeah.
there's some hilarious parts. Like the coin line is hilarious. Almost anything super psycho that Anton says is like hilarious.
You like can't even believe it. You're just like,
Right.
what?
Right. Yeah.
This
So what are you
guy's
talking
absolutely
about?
insane. The beginning of the part two, which is like such a serious thing of like, this hunter finding like just a bloodbath in the middle of the desert, like was kind of funny because of just how nonplussed he is by the entire thing. Like he just walks in, just kind of like, looks at the bodies. He looks at the dog. He's just, oh, when Anton and the two, I guess, big wigs who were, I don't even know exactly who they were. They were walking into the scene of the drug deal. And he looks down and he's just like, that's a dead dog.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
like, I think it's Sugar who says like, yes, it is, or something like that. It's like just these deadpan observations. Like
Yeah.
this, if any of us walked into a scene like that, we would like be beside ourselves with like, just fear and panic. But everybody seems to walk into this crime scene like, huh,
Well,
how about that?
even the way Llewellyn walks into it, it's like he's walked into like the fallout from a shootout before. He like
Yeah, yeah,
he's like, okay, this guy's in the car there, but there's got to be a final man. All right, where did the final man
yeah.
go? And
Like
he's like
look for
looking
the
around.
shade.
Ultimo
Like,
Yeah.
hombre. Yeah.
yeah. um,
I ain't got no
but it's
water.
I said I ain't got no agua. But yeah, there's there's a weird coolness to the way that Llewellyn handles all of this.
Hmm.
And I guess some of that, they mentioned that he fought in Nam,
Yeah, you're
and
about right.
some of that could go back to that. But like if you remove those two lines about fighting in Vietnam, like this dude is way too calm, cool, and collected for the type of situation that he's in. Like just going
Yeah, yeah,
to the sporting store and saying, "Give me your tent with the most poles," and like knowing that he's gonna put the briefcase all the way down in the vent in the motel, and then he's gonna get a room on the other side. Like he's like
it's
he's a super
Yeah,
smart dude, and he's
yeah,
I
like super
saw
intuitive.
one of the things I did, which is funny. Like I you can do this for like any movie. You just like search it on TikTok and you can find like 6 or 7 like little analysis moments of like any movie. And one of the ones I saw was just like it made a really couple really good points of like how parts of this movie are so satisfying to watch. And we kind of brushed on it, right? It's like because it's almost like competency porn, where
yeah. Everybody's
they're
so
just
good at what they're doing.
That's
everyone's so
such a
good
good
at
way.
what they're doing. Everyone's
Yeah,
so good
Yeah,
at what they're
yeah,
doing. It's so satisfying to watch. Like we're talking about them just like being doers, right? Like they just do
yeah.
it. They just
Absolutely
know how to
doers.
Mhm.
do these things. Like Llewellyn knows how to like set up the escape. Like he knows that he's
Yeah,
being chased.
he
He
saws off a
exact
shotgun. He's got the
knows
bag.
exactly what to do. He knows he's cutting up the hangers. He's making hooks, and he
Mhm.
just preps, and he knows exactly how to set it up. And the same with like Shigurth when he gets shot, right? Like he knows exactly how he goes up. He even when he like puts the little sticker over the gasoline tank just to give it like 10 seconds extra for it to burn through so
Mhm.
it doesn't go up immediately. Like all these little care and considerations like are so calculated
Yeah,
that it's so satisfying to watch and be like, oh my god, wow, that's so smart,
yeah.
you know.
Incredibly humanizing, I think.
Which is why it's so funny that both of those characters unravel in the ways that they do. It's just
Yeah,
Llewellyn like being at the motel and like some lady offering him beer, and then all of a sudden like these Mexicans run up on him, and
Right,
like
and that's it.
and
yeah.
that's it, and
That's the
he's
end of the
done.
line.
And
Yeah,
then like Sugar, he goes through everything. He finds Clara Jean. He goes to her house. He has the whole talk with her, and then he's driving away, and he gets sideswiped
Slammed.
by
T-boned,
some
yeah.
he gets T-boned by some other car, and like that's it. Like this dude is like a machine. We've watched him for 2 hours like mow through every situation that he's in, and this is how these guys get taken out. And then with Tommy Lee, like he's sort of just like he's always like 3 steps behind. Like
Yep.
those
Yep.
Yeah, he is.
two, but he's competent in his own right. Like he
Mhm.
walks into Llewellyn's house. He notices that the key portion of the door flew off and like where it hit.
Mhm.
So
He's
that
a good detective. He's a good sheriff.
he's a good detective. Like he knows what's going on, but he still is 2 to 3 steps behind these other 2 dudes. And maybe like that's just old guys. Like
Yeah.
they can't fully keep
He-
up with the
Yeah,
times.
and
Yeah.
he even has that moment in where he's talking to what's her name again? I forget her name. I keep forgetting her name. The wife.
Clarity.
Yeah, and he's talking to her in the diner, and he says like he describes to her how they used to kill cattle versus they do now, and he describes the bolt pistol, the air bolt pistol,
Yeah.
and that's normally in most movies and TV shows where they'd go, and they never know what hit them. I gotta go.
Can't
Right?
resist.
And
Yeah, he gets up, gets in his car.
And yeah, it's like I gotta go.
I get
Here's
this
the check.
coffee to go.
Yeah.
Are you
and
going
I
to
felt-
eat your eggs?
Yeah. And I feel like they very intentionally did that build up and like just didn't have him make any connection to it.
Yeah.
And just in that way, right? Just in that way where you're just saying like he is super competent, but just not as competent.
Yeah.
Just not as good.
Yeah, he's like built for a different world, a different version of the world. I love that opening monologue where he talks about, he's like, oh, the old timers, they didn't even used to carry a gun, they walked around, with nothing on them, because like, it's almost like it's a very American thing in a lot of ways to like look at the past with, kind of rose tinted glasses. And I think he's got this sense of like, oh, you didn't need them back in the day, like you could solve every problem by just talking it out, with a couple of good old boys. And it's like, in reality, like obviously there's always been violence. There's always been chaos and
like
everything. And
how did Americans take Texas?
Yeah,
and even
how did Americans take the West?
Yeah.
And even the airbolt pistol just being like a newer piece of technology.
Yeah.
That he's just not used to like
Yeah.
even that just being a newer thing that exists in his world now. Like he would never think twice that someone would use that to murder a human, let alone be like shooting locks out of doors.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
naivete, like he
Right.
can't comprehend it.
Right, exactly.
I thought that was an interesting visual point where he goes back to the scene of the crime to, because he thinks Anton's going to be there, and he's got a gun. And that's the first time we see him carrying a gun the entire movie, because he's like, I've been driven to this. This is like, I can't go on anymore, man. Like, I can't keep doing this job. Like, I'm walking into a crime scene with a gun drawn, like ready to who knows what. And then, right after that, he goes back to his wife and is like, I'm done. I'm done. I can't do this anymore.
That's a wrap.
Yeah.
What did you guys think of him sort of quitting at the end? Like the old guard just sort of, he just like lays down and he's like, I surrender. Like, new guard, you guys come in and take it. What'd you make of that?
I think that's the part of the movie that I actually had the most trouble like interpreting.
Mm.
It's tough because he retires, but it seems to be this like he seems to relate his retirement to the death of his father and like the dreams that he had of his dad kind of lighting the way for him.
Mm.
And like waiting for him in the next life, warm by a fire.
Yeah.
And I'm not, but besides him like being outmatched, the only other way I could kind of perceive it is that maybe he feels like, or maybe he doesn't even feel like it, but maybe he just lit the way for a newer generation to, take his place in this part of the process.
I think you could look at it in a few different ways. Like, this is the kind of thing that I think went completely over my head as a teenager reading the book, is like, I couldn't comprehend someone being confused by things changing. Because it's like, when you're young, you're just like, you're with it, you're hip, nothing really surprises you. And the whole him kind of having this existential crisis over like, and you're watching it, it's like a period piece, you're like, nothing seems that different to me, old man, but like him seeing things to him like just change so dramatically. You could look at it almost as like a heroic thing to say, I know when I'm whooped, like I'm not going to do any more good. I got to hand over the reins to someone new. Or you could almost look at it in almost a cowardice kind of way of being like, I've decided that I can't understand this, and I'm not going to try, and I'm just going to go back to my ranch and kind of remove myself from the world.
I do think there's a like a showcase of failure from the Coen brothers. I feel like they're very not afraid to show the characters fail.
Yeah.
Prominently.
Yeah. And it's not really a happy ending for Tommy Lee Jones. I mean, he retires, he's with his wife, but he's
the only real winner is
it's not really a happy ending for anyone.
Yeah. Shiger is like the only real winner.
Yeah.
Like,
but he doesn't get to kill Llewellyn.
True.
Oh yeah.
That's probably gonna piss him off for the rest of his life, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He walks away with a broken arm and, no vengeance.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No vengeance for old men.
So I think there is like a theme of failure in the movie that exists, which is, it's really interesting.
Yeah. Like vengeance, failure, like it's really, I don't know. It's very compelling. I wonder if this is like, it's one of these things where so much of this resonates for me as like a man, and, the way we're socialized as men to like, I don't know, perceive ideas of like, of vengeance, of like, I don't know, kind of like putting them up, putting your fists up when something gets in your way. And I wonder if there's different kinds of perceptions to it. I wonder if I'm like very colored by that. And someone who, isn't socialized that way. I wonder how their perception of the movie would be. Do you think it's kind of like a macho movie? Do you think it's a macho film?
I think it is, but like it might not be, since in the end they do all end up failing. I don't know. I'm trying to think if there's enough there for the Carla Jean character, like at the end. Like, I guess maybe if you're reading it as like her, bucking up against Anton and his idea of, the fates that brought him here, and she sort of calls out his bullshit. Like that in like a small way could sort of be like a reading of like a more feminist reading in a weird way of this movie about dudes chasing each other.
Every other male character
straws, but yeah.
No, I think that's cool, because like every other male character is kind of like impressed by Anton. They're like, it's like, damn, this guy, like they think he's horrible, but they're like, wow, man, like how does he do it? Like how does he do it? It's incredible. And then like at the final scene, she's just like, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, she's like, you're full of shit. You're totally full of shit. Like none 100%. Of this is none of this is real. Like you're making things up to sort of like make yourself feel better about how you told yourself that the world works. I don't know. I'm also wondering if Tommy Lee's character, if that wife character is sort of doing the same thing at the end, where she's like, I'm gonna ride my horse alone, and then she's like, tell me your dreams. Okay, what does it mean?
Yeah,
I don't know. And then it's over.
Yeah. He's like, I don't want to talk about it. She's like, no, tell me. Like, come on.
Yeah,
it'll be good for you. Talk about your feelings. And he tells her, and she's just like, yeah, that's real, man. That's heavy.
I also got totally jump scared by the car crash, and like it was such an obvious car crash was about to happen, but they so intentionally do the classic shot of the driver where like you'd see the car coming in, right? From that side. They so intentionally do that, like, no, look, there's no car. And then from the other side he gets slammed. I got jump scared. I literally got jump scared.
Yeah.
When I got jump scared was when Woody Harrelson shows up. I don't know how many times I've seen this movie, but I still get excited when he pops up.
I was kind of shook by that. I was like, "Oh my god, this is a Woody Harrelson movie!" I had no clue. Legitimately,
he might be Matthew McConaughey's real brother.
Like they're like really worked up about that. They're like, they're in it. They're living that. They're living that reality right now.
How would this movie be different if Matthew McConaughey played
Shigarth?
Anton Shigarth.
All right, all right, all right. Now listen here.
Don't put that coin in your pocket.
I gave my word.
I was gonna say as Woody's character, but as Anton.
No,
as
that-
Steve's character. Also, if Matthew
That's your lucky
McConaughey
coin,
played,
brother.
if he played Llewellyn, he'd be dead in like the first 10 minutes.
oh, 100%,
Yeah,
yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Oh man, that's too good. All right, do you guys have anything else on No Country? I was thinking we could maybe get into our recommendations.
Yeah, let me. Do I have anything else?
What do you guys have? What do you got?
What do I got?
What do you got?
I think my biggest regret is that I wish I was able to. I wish I watched this movie 10, 15 times before I came on, because like I feel like there's so many details in it,
Yeah,
and I don't like. Even watching it yesterday, I was like, "Damn, I'm so mad that I only watched this once." Like I feel like I
Mhm.
could have so many more thoughts. Like I feel like every shot is so meticulously like planned and calculated, and while I was watching it I was just like I also felt like I was like, man, like the quality of this movie is like where we should just cap movie quality, right? Like nothing should be
Yeah.
digital. Like I looked
Dude,
it up mid movie.
Deakins.
I was like, was this shot on film? Like, and it
Mhm.
was, and I was
Yeah,
like, this
yeah.
is
It's
gorgeous.
Deakins,
Like
right?
what?
Who did the cinematography?
Oh, the
Roger
cinematography.
Deakins?
I don't even know who did the cinematography, but I googled it, and like it was a very deliberate choice to shoot it on film,
Mhm.
Yeah.
which was great.
It looks beautiful, even on a
It
plane.
looks beautiful. It looks gorgeous, and I didn't know. I didn't know that the Coen Brothers also did True Grit. I actually did
Oh,
not
yeah,
realize that, which is like a similar film feel. I feel like,
Mhm.
but I just think it's so funny that these are the guys that did Fargo and The Big Lebowski,
the Ballad
which
of
are
Buster Scruggs.
I've
I
only
think
seen.
there are a lot of similarities between this and Fargo.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is
in a weird
it's
way.
weird? Yeah, because Fargo is another pretty gruesome movie, but it's just presented in a different way.
It's kind of like the flip side of this, like Fargo, like because of the people and like the location, it's all about folks who are incompetent and like
Right.
like what's her name? And Frances McDormand's character is the only competent one and just like in a sea of people who can't get anything right. And like because it's in the north and like it's a cold sort of geography, it plays a little bit funnier, but it is like a really dark movie. Whereas
Yeah,
this
it's
plays
gruesome.
super dark and is in reality like kind of funny, but because of the Texas versus like North Minnesota or whatever wherever Fargo takes place, because of that like geography disconnect, that's sort of where like the comedic like dramatic lines are blurred, which is kind of
Right.
cool. And they were both, if my memory is right, I think they were both shot by Deakins. And what Deakins does better than I think any cinematographer ever is he really uses like landscapes and geography to sort of like highlight the undertones of like what is happening in a movie, and like all of the wide shots in whatever landscape he's using, just like they look incredible, and it's so important in terms of like what kind of story the directors or in this case the directors are trying to tell.
Yeah, I think that's, if I have a final say on the movie, I think like from a technical standpoint, like agreeing with everything you guys just said, like obviously, the story, the writing is all really phenomenal, but I think it's carried so strongly by that cinematography, by the way it's shot. Because a big sticking point for me is like period pieces that just don't ring true. When something is like supposed to be taking place, even times that I wasn't alive for, but like there's an element of truth that's like really hard to do, especially these days with like digital film, like, or digital entertainment, like certain props, certain sets, costumes, things that just don't quite feel lived in. And I think that this was maybe like the most transported back in time I've felt by like something I've seen on screen in a long time. Like it really felt like I was watching something that took place in like 1980, like in the late 70s. I think that's the film. I think that's attention to detail in the costumes, the cars that are being driven, like everything felt so deliberate. and masterful to the point where it just disappeared and it just fell away. And it felt like, someone literally, like, this was a movie from like, the 1970s that just got remastered. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think that's really effective because so much of the story, this is the kind of thing that like really is of the time. And of that shifting of generations between like the old days and, what we consider to be modern. And I think that that's like technically just brilliant, really brilliant. Did this win Oscars for like cinematography stuff? I know it won Best Picture, right?
I know it won Best Picture. I don't know if it won a lot of the technical stuff.
Yeah, what the nominations were. I'm curious.
It came out the same year as There Will Be Blood, which is just like super unfair that both of those movies were like had to like compete for Oscars with each other because they're both amazing movies and should both win everything. But yeah,
I associate these two movies, those two movies, like the No Country for Old Men and There Will Be Blood, with like I just associate them so hardcore with each other.
Oh yeah,
and I think it's just because they both were released in within a month of each other, and they're both like that grainy feel, grainy, gritty feel.
Yeah. They're both fantastic, and watching them as like a high schooler, it just they don't resonate the same way that it does now. Like before you when you're 16 and you watch No Country for Old Men, you're like, whoa, that's so cool, man. Anton is like a crazy killer. And then you watch it, when you're a little bit older and you're like, wow, this movie is like really heavy and dealing with like weird feelings about changing times and things like that.
Yeah.
And more like our own mortality and what it means to be a man in America. Like things that you're just things that you're not picking up on as a 16-year-old.
I wish I had seen this movie back then when it first came out, because just so I could compare my my memories of it to how I see it now. At least I have the the vague book memories, because I know how I don't remember the details, but I remember how it made me feel. Mm-hmm. And it's like you said, like just at the time I was like, oh cool, yeah, like like these crazy guys are like shooting each other up in Texas, and now I'm like oh my god, no, it's about like like you're every day you're not being born, you're busy dying. You know what I mean? So it's just a heavy shit. Yeah.
The association of movies is only happening with one other pair of movies, and it's nothing like No Country for Old Men and There Will Be Blood. But another pair of movies that came out that have very similar feels are Friends with Benefits. I think that's Mila Kunis and like and Justin Timberlake, and No Strings Attached, which is Ashton Kutcher and I think Natalie Portman.
Oh yeah.
And I for some reason those two movies and these two movies, like I just like can't disassociate them. I don't know why.
They're woven I think all into four the same fabric.
Came out in the same year. I do like I like the Mila Kunis one.
Oh really? With Justin Timberlake?
Yeah, I saw it in theaters.
Nice. I was working in a movie theater at that time, and that's part of the why. Because like I was working behind the concession stand, and every time I would look up, it would be like looping previews, and I would just see like No Strings Attached, Friends with Benefits. And I was like, I feel like I was being like brainwashed, like you know what I mean, when it's like the flashing images and the lights.
Oh yeah.
And one other thing that's kind of cool that I learned today about No Country for Old Men is that and this relates to video games actually. I sent this to Welsh just before we hopped on, because it's crazy that I just found this out. In Grand Theft Auto 5, they actually recreated the drug, the botched drug deal in the game. Like you can go find it, and if you wander off to like the tree, there'll be like a half dying guy who will say like, don't take it, like if you take it, like people come after you, and if you take the money, then you get hunted down by drug dealers.
That's awesome. That totally
just a little Easter egg.
That's a perfect way to circle back on where we started with this conversation, and would this movie make a good video game? And the answer is it already exists within a video game. It's also a great way for us to transition into the last portion of the show, which is everyone's favorite portion. Each week, I promise that we're going to have a jingle or something, a little song that plays before we do 3 recommendations, because it's just so much fun. It's so much damn fun. That's why we're all here. But we don't have it this week, so maybe next week. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah,
fix it in post.
It's your 3 choices.
But yeah, we'll go around the room and we'll each name our 3 recommendations. We'll go one by one. So we'll just do one at a time. And if you want to just give a quick little tidbit about why you're recommending it, how you think it sort of ties back or is connected to No Country for Old Men, and then we'll go around in a circle, and then we'll do a recap, and then we'll get out of here. We'll skedaddle, as the kids say. We'll have a beer, and beer leads to more beer.
I know what beer leads to. Beer leads to more beer.
I guess I can go first.
Dead.
I guess I can go first.
Do
So I think I'm just gonna throw out three games. I'm gonna do 3 games.
Ooh, unfortunately, that
wait, I might
breaks
have
the
missed
rules.
I might have missed your rules actually. What is it? It's how many games and is it one
So,
game?
The rule is at least one has to be a movie,
Or one has to
and
be a
then
movie? Okay.
and then the others can be whatever. Maybe you and Welsh can trade, because Welsh, you have 3 movies.
I do indeed.
All right, so you're getting your fill either way.
I'm a terrible
I
gamer.
guess
Wow.
since you guys are joining as a combo, as the co-hosts of the S1E5
We just put it in as a pool.
Yeah, you guys will pool your recommendations together, and then it'll all right, fine.
We can go, maybe we can
not
go back and forth. So I'll do one, and then Welsh can do a movie, and I'll do one. Welsh can do a movie.
There you
Yeah,
go.
I'm not happy about it, but we'll let it ride for now. It's fine.
So I think the best one of the best examples I think, or one of the thematically closest games I can think of to this movie in tone and in themes are is probably Red Dead Redemption 2. I never played the first one, so I don't know, Welsh, if you think the first one's better, but I think Red Dead Redemption 2, which is actually a prequel to the first one, so you can just play it out of the box, whatever. It's actually the same developer, Rockstar, who developed Grand Theft Auto. So it's kind of this sprawling 1910 Western,
late 1800s, early 1900s.
It's like the early 1900s. You're a cowboy, but I think it delves really deeply into the theme of changing times. But instead of the changing times being on the lawman, it's more of the changing times being on the criminal, the classic cowboy, who is now falling behind the changing times of the authority. And authority being written, authority being imposed, and how you reconcile with that, and how you reconcile with like your own life as a whole before death. The game runs incredibly deep. I think I probably cried like twice during that game.
Nice.
And it's just a great look at like the early American Midwestern life, and what it means to kind of live through deep change.
Nice. That's a good first pick. I've never played it. I played like an hour of the first Red Dead. As you guys know, I'm not a big gamer, so for me to play an hour of something is like a pretty big deal.
Huge, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the first one, the main character, in the first one, you're like hunting down your old cowboy gang, and because the government basically tells you have to. And the first one, that main character is a side character, and you're just like a member of that gang. So it's before the events of the second one
of Red Dead. Okay.
It's a prequel. You're kind of like in this failing cowboy gang. You're coming off a heist gone wrong. You're trying to your leader is in disarray. You're trying to figure out how to survive. And it's really fantastic. It's super amazing writing.
Yeah, one of the best stories I think I've played in a game for sure.
Yeah,
sweet.
well, should to the movie.
Yeah, well,
sure. So I'm going to go in a very different direction. My first suggestion is, if you were really compelled and disturbed by the portrayal of Anton Chigurh as like a psychopath with a code, I think the movie Nightcrawler with Jake Gyllenhaal is
nice.
Not, in any way similar in terms of like, setting or story, but it's like, I think the portrayal is actually very kind of a similar sort of vibe of like, you're following a character who is deeply disturbed, but has their own bizarre code and reason for why they behave the way they do. And it's like there's logic to everything. He's a young guy like working on the streets in, I believe it's Los Angeles or somewhere in California. And
Yeah, it's LA.
and he's like, doing different odd jobs. He's like stealing things, but he's kind of like gassing himself up, and like he's just trying to, he's faking it, every step of the way, and winds up getting into the business of taking videos and photos of car crashes and accidents and crimes and stuff after they've happened. And his like total lack of empathy leads him to just seeing it as like, it's just profit. It's just a way to make money. And he doesn't even think about the humanity of the people along the way. And he winds up kind of getting involved into, possibly causing things, all that sort of thing. And it's like his portrayal is so deeply creepy and disturbing, because you're like, one second it's handsome Jake Gyllenhaal, smiling at the camera, and then the mask slips and you're like, this is like there's nothing behind there except for just like anger and, resentment and pride. And I think it's like kind of a cool portrayal of someone who's a bit psychopathic in I think a pretty compelling and believable way, I think.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a really good pick. I love that movie.
Yeah.
That's a good shout.
Super haunting.
Very creepy Jake Gyllenhaal. But
yeah,
like you
said,
said,
a good psycho.
Yeah. That's a good connection. I dig that one. All right. I have 3 movies as well. For my first one, I'm going to go with a super basic sort of connection point. I love the Coen brothers. I'm going to recommend what I think is probably my favorite movie that they've made in the 21st century. I think most people would probably say that it's No Country. I just roll a little bit different. I'm built different like that. So I'm recommending I got that dog in me. So I'm recommending Inside Llewyn Davis, because nothing says I got that dog in me more than folk music in the Greenwich Village in the 60s. But I adore that movie. That's one of my favorite Coen brother movies. Love Oscar Isaac. He's sick. Yeah, man. It's just a great movie about a sad sort of sack of shit trying to get through, and he doesn't. It's kind of similar to this. It's about failure at the end of the day. And who doesn't love to see dudes fail?
This is, what is the name again? Inside
Llewyn Davis. I was also kind of tripped out.
Oscar Isaac?
Yeah. I was surprised too, and I've never seen it, but I remember I knew the name, and I looked up the poster. I was like, that's Oscar Isaac.
Wow. Huh.
Yeah, man. He sings and plays guitar and everything. He's
I'm interested.
He's legit. It's great, man. I have it on DVD if you want to borrow it.
Can I just come over and watch it?
I'm busy that day. What's your next recommend?
So I actually just thought of one, actually, as we're talking about this. And Welsh, I'd love your commentary on this.
Sure.
I think another great game that's a little bit cat and mouse, and I haven't played it in a long time, so I actually would love to replay this game.
Is it that cat game you were talking about before?
No, Stray. That's a great game, but not a recommendation for this. And actually, it's another Rockstar game. LA Noire is a really, really cool game where it's essentially like you are a LA detective in like the 1940s,
30s or 40s, yeah, something like that.
And you are essentially trying to solve a fictionalized version of the Black Dahlia murder. And you go out throughout like 1940s LA. You're like investigating. You have all these like interrogations where you have to pick the questions you ask. You have to pick the answers you give to people, and that all impacts how the story plays out for you. It's like super dark, super kind of disturbing. And the lead guy is the detective who you play as is actually acted and facial captured by what's his name? Kenny from
Tommy Lee Jones.
Tommy Lee Jones. It's Kenny from Mad Men. Aaron Staton, who was in like he played Ken in Mad, like all of Mad.
Kenny Powers.
I wish. So LA Noire is a great game. It's a bit older, but it's really fantastic. It's a really cool story, and it has a lot of nice dynamic choices you can make while you're investigating this crime.
Nice.
That ties in with the period piece thing too. I think it does a really good job of transporting you back to that that time and place in a digital sense.
Yeah.
I dig it. I'm probably not going to play it, but that sounds rad.
It's long. I think it's a long ass
Yeah.
game.
Welsh, what's your next one?
Sure. My next is another movie. It is if something about the setting of No Country for Old Men really appealed to you, something about that so there's something about Texas. There's something about Texas. There's something about West Texas, in particular, that's just this wide open kind of. It's like depressing if you let it be. There's like a sense of just nature and humanity kind of fighting at odds with each other. A lot of like
Dallas
poverty.
Buyers Club.
Speaking of Matthew McConaughey, Hell or High Water. It's a film about West Texas. Different time period, different kind of crime, but it takes place in West Texas. It's about two brothers who are in poverty in an attempt to save their I believe it's their mother's farm, that they've grown up on. They turn to robbing banks and kind of like getting in trouble with the law. And I think that it paints a similar picture of kind of like the bleakness of that, just something about that part of the country, part of the world that like is so beautiful visually, but is full of just a lot of history and a lot of violence under the surface. And I think it has a really cool tone to it, a very cool visual style. So if you were watching this and you were just like, damn, there's just like something cool about like these like lawman stories in Texas. Like I think that's a really cool modern take on kind of like a modern outlaw story that I really, really dig. I watched it in Texas, actually, with a real live Texan. So
they exist.
They do, believe it or not. Yeah, they're not just in the movies. Yeah.
I could have sworn they were just in the movies.
And I can confirm, driving around Texas, it looks like that. It's big.
That's a good shout, and that's big. Big sort of like lawman feeling lost in his own world.
Yeah,
similar to Tommy Lee, the great Jeff Bridges, right?
Indeed.
Yeah,
the dude himself. Yeah,
the dude himself.
Yeah,
yeah,
and
you got a Coen brother.
These crimes.
Yeah, a Coen brother connection. Sweet. All right, my next one is kind of weird. I was really stuck on the Woody Harrelson showing up like 40 minutes in, or like an hour in, and just like throwing a weird wrench into the mix. So I was trying to think of any other, solid movies where Woody just like randomly pops up and the whole movie sort of like takes a weird turn for that period of time until he goes away again. I don't know if you guys have seen Triangle of Sadness from last year, but
no, I didn't.
Actually, never heard of it. I don't think.
I did hear of it.
It's pretty fun. It's a really cool movie. It's kind of long, and Woody Harrelson pops up like 40, 50 minutes in, and you're like, hey, what's up with that guy? What's he doing over here? And
hey,
then
Woody!
Hey, Woody!
Hey. The theater goes wild.
Yeah, and then we kind of steer off into something a little different, but then it comes back around at the end. So not really very similar to No Country for Old Men, but if you enjoy movies where Woody Harrelson shows up later on, check out Triangle of Sadness.
That's awesome.
Who doesn't love a surprise Woody 40 minutes in?
Hey.
Heyo. Pause.
Hey, yo.
No pause. I'm here for surprise Woodies.
Hell yeah. Ship it, tattoo it right on the bicep.
It's just such low hanging fruit for a joke. All right, what's your next one?
All right, my last reco
is your Twitch stream.
Nah, that's not a game, bro. Goddamn.
It should be a movie.
All my streams are movies, bro. You gotta come check me out. Last stream was a movie.
Confirmed.
My last recommendation is it might not thematically be super close to No Country, but I think it's probably the most cinematic experience that I've had in a game, and I think it has the most well thought out, some of the most well thought out writing and plot driving in any game is The Last of Us Part 2.
Crash Bandicoot.
Spyro
Spyro the Dragon.
yeah, the trilogy.
I saw it was remastered in my cop.
Dude,
Yeah,
great.
they're cheap. They're on Switch. Go get it.
They're great games.
I think Last of Us Part 2 is probably it's in my top 5. It like immediately shot in my top 5. It's something that like what I think a lot of games have lacked over the years and are just starting to really implement into their stories now is, and it's something that No Country does really well, is the sense of perspective that you get from different characters. And I think a lot of video games suffer from like, hey, you're the good guy, this is the antagonist, go, right? Even like some of my favorite games do that. Like that part of the storytelling is very simplistic, it's very straightforward. Even if things around that are deep, I think the Last of Us Part 2, it kind of takes that that part of the story and really elevates it. You get a large sense of perspective from different characters in the game, namely two, the recontextualization that happens of things that happened in the first game, things that happen earlier in the game from later in the game is beautiful. And the characters are so well fleshed out throughout that story that by the time you leave it, you are in tears. Like you are just so torn up.
Yeah, you're a puddle.
Yeah, and it's beautiful. It's a really beautiful experience. It looks at like not only like the human condition, but like what the human condition and what issues human beings go through. And like it's like just because we're in the zombie apocalypse, like those things don't end, right? So it's like, what does mental health look like in these things? What does struggling with you know, different issues that someone like what is, you know, someone who might be born into this world, right, struggling with something like homosexuality because they're in like a religious cult and they don't understand even what they don't have a word for it anymore, right? Because it's like there's no society, so it's like these things will still exist. How do those problems look?
Yeah,
and what's the connection of people to the world now? It's really beautiful, and I can't recommend it more. I can't recommend it enough. The only, you know, thing is you have to play the first one or watch season 1.
Yeah, you could watch season 1 of the show and then
just watch season 1,
get a PS5 and then play the second game.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. Like, I think it's a really beautiful game. I think we both agree with that. There's a lot of controversy around it for certain things that will lead into like direct spoilers, but I think it goes back to like kind of like those opinions that are very toxic, and founded in a lot of like toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
So I think because of that, people refuse to look past like certain things that happen in the game, and they just kind of write off 20 hours of beautiful storytelling because one thing happened that they got really mad about.
Yeah. I think
it's a great way to look at a game.
It's a phenomenal exercise in empathy. I think it demands a great deal of empathy from the player, from the viewer, which I think a lot of great art does. You know, it not even like invites you, but I think it requires you to really put yourself out there into someone else's shoes, which I think No Country for Old Men kind of does in its own way. Cause like, you know, you're the different changing perspectives of people doing pretty nasty things to each other, and kind of being like, you know, trying to understand where they come from and what they do. So yeah, I think that the tone is there.
That's what I also forgot to close out with, is that it's probably the only game where you play this entire story and you are fully left with enough tools and devices to make your own decision about who's a protagonist, who's an antagonist. Like by the time you're done with that game, it is so unclear that you're just kind of throw your hands up and you're like, everybody's wrong. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like it's amazing. It's amazing because they take these two protagonists from the first game and put so much muckiness around their actions and other people's actions that it's like it's a beautiful exercise to go through and thing to experience. So highly, that's probably my top recommendation if I have to recommend one.
Awesome. You've been recommending that I play that game for like 2 years, and again, I'm not a big gamer, and you guys both tell me that even as not a big gamer, The Last of Us, and especially The Last of Us Part 2, is something like super special to enjoy and experience. So I will
watch it on HBO.
Yeah.
Well, I'll watch season 2 on HBO.
Wait 2 years for season 2.
Yeah, no, I purposely didn't watch the first season of the HBO show because I'm planning on playing the
Oh,
Snap.
games
dude,
at
what a
some point.
king.
Then you can
At
come on
some
our
point.
podcast.
That's a pro gamer.
Yeah,
Yeah, come on.
watch out for me on that podcast. I'm gonna be talking about
Come through.
fucking
It's gonna be a movie.
B downs and right triggers all the time,
Oh yeah,
all that stuff.
jumping
What's the
on
Konami
Koopas
code?
and
Konami code.
Oh
rip it from
man,
memory.
Up, down,
Yeah,
up, down,
man.
left, right, A, B,
Select
start.
AB,
Oh, that's how you get the helicopter in Grand Theft Auto, right?
Honestly, probably.
Yeah, it's in everything.
It's basically the first cheat code ever put in a game. So now people just put it in like their games as like little jokes and Easter eggs.
Mhm.
Of course, that's a gaming joke for all the gaming
All you
folks
gamers out there.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a decent amount of gamers listening. Who
Try
are
it on a
happy
DVD
to-
menu. See what happens.
Yeah, you'll get special features.
Yep.
Sweet. I gotta stop saying sweet. I've realized that's my crutch word.
I just
to
say
go-
a lot.
I say a lot too, but we'll fix that in post.
Fix it
Welsh,
first.
what's your last recommend?
So my last recommend is either a book or a movie. Actually, you could watch it or read it. If you watch this movie and you were like, man, I really dig, I'm picking up what Cormac McCarthy is putting down, then you can go and watch or read The Road by Cormac McCarthy, same author who wrote No Country for Old Men. Very different setting. Takes place in like apocalyptic America, where everything has fallen apart, but not in the traditional zombie apocalypse kind of sense, where there's a lot of action. There's a lot of like, kind of laying out what happened and what's going on. It's a man and his son trying to cross the country and just trying to survive whatever is in their way. And I think it has a very, very bleak tone in the way that Cormac McCarthy writes that is so compelling, because you're like, that really there's not much good is going to happen to these people, but you're just so driven by the humanity that's being displayed by them. And I think that the tone is really strong. The story is very compelling. And something that I dig about it, kind of compared to No Country for Old Men, is that there's a sense of two worlds of a changing of the guard, where you've got in the film, it's played by Viggo Mortensen, who's the father, and the characters don't have names, if I remember correctly. I think it's just the father and the son or something like that, which maybe religion connotation.
The Holy Ghost.
Yeah, where's the Holy Ghost?
Or Holy Spirit, depending
The
on
Holy Son.
Yeah. So he's of the world before, and his son is born, I believe he's born or was a very, very young child when the world fell apart. So it's kind of like him growing up in this world and his father being like, I can't live here for long. Like I'm not made for this. I know too much about the way the world used to be, and kind of like their perspectives of trying to get his son somewhere safe so that he can have some kind of life to live. I think the perspective shift is interesting. And there's some villainy of, other people and how they survive. And you kind of ask yourself, like, who would you be in that world? Who is a good person? Who is a bad person? And how is that laid out? Like that evil is probably always there, just under the surface. Cormac McCarthy, man, he's
yeah.
I'm learning how important perspective changes are in story.
Empathy. Because
without it, it's so vanilla. This is right. This is wrong. This is good guy. This is bad guy.
Yeah.
And with it, for me, that's like it's everything, I think.
Yeah. I think the best.
Where's the lines?
The best stories are, to me at least, the ones where it's no very few villains think that they're the villain of the story. Like
right.
They got their reasons for doing what they're doing. Even the psychopaths.
Are there a lot of similarities? Like, do you think The Last of Us pulled from The Road?
I think so. I actually would be shocked if they hadn't. There's a lot of similarities in terms of like, father child crossing a vast amount of space in a post-apocalyptic world. I think that I would be shocked actually if like a lot of the people who worked on the original Last of Us game were not pretty intimately familiar with The Road. I'm actually curious if like they've, in any of the making of stuff, if they've like discussed influences like that, because it's like I remember playing it and thinking like, wow, they made a video game out of The Road.
Right. Oh yeah, okay. So then it does feel like it. I was just curious.
Yeah,
Neil Druckmann hack, absolute hack.
Ripped it off.
Road. Yeah, what a hack. Terrible. Unrecommend your last one. Unrecommend The Last of Us.
Yeah.
Last was part 2.
Trash.
Actually, trash. Yeah.
Trash.
All right, what's
Plagiarized.
yours? Last one.
My last one. You guys are going super deep with your connections. So I'm going to try to match you guys with something that is also sort of about the ills of toxic masculinity and sort of dealing with mortality. I'm just kidding. My last recommend
Animal
is
House.
actually a movie that I haven't seen, but I was thinking about iconically bad haircuts in movies or
Oh,
TV
nice.
shows because Anton's hairdo is wild. Like, who would go out of the house looking like that?
Truly
Unless you're
terrifying.
just gonna murder people. But even then, because like,
Do you think
everyone
Anton
knows,
would
like,
wear Crocs to murders now?
Oh, 100%. They'd be so quiet, no one would hear him coming. Be so
He'd
It'd
wear
be like-
Vibram
It'd be
toe
like
shoes.
instead of
He'd
him
wear red
taking
ones.
off his shoes, it would be like him like pulling the heel over to put it in like efficiency
To
mode.
lock it in.
Yeah.
him locking in his Crocs.
Yeah.
Oh shit, he's
Cock
ready
the
to
shotgun,
murder.
lock the Crocs.
Yeah. Let's go.
I'm wearing mine
You-
right now. Who said that?
He would wear red ones though, so that when the
So you
blood
could
splatters,
wipe off the blood, yeah.
Okay.
yeah, it all blends in. Yeah. So for bad haircuts, a movie I haven't seen, and maybe never will, but I've seen some images of Charlize Theron and John Cena in Fast 9, and their haircuts look ridiculous. So not quite on the same level as Anton, but you got to give.
You're not going to
you gotta
watch
give some
Fast
love to
9
Bad.
before Fast 10?
Yeah, how are you gonna know what's going on?
I don't know. I kind of stopped at Tokyo Drift.
Dude, Fast 11's the last one too. For sure. Definitely the last one.
I thought 10 was.
No, it's 10 and 11, bro. Come on. Paul Walker, RIP.
His legacy.
That's a discussion for another day. But they had the perfect opportunity to
CGI
end the
him.
franchise.
CGI him again.
Top 10 Fast and Furious movies. Let's go.
It's crazy that there are more than 10 to use for that
Hobbs
list.
and Shaw, baby.
Oh yeah, does that count?
Yeah.
I think it counts.
It does.
It's the extended the cinematic universe, the FFF FAFCCU. Yeah, something like that.
All right. Sorry, just had a tickle in my throat. I hit the cough button. Before we get out of here, let's just everyone run through the recommends one more time, so folks listening at home can jot things down in case they didn't get a chance to the first time around, and we'll just go in the same order.
Sure, yeah. Should I just do all three of mine? And
All
bang,
three,
bang, bang?
boom, boom, boom. Yeah.
All right. Red Dead Redemption 2, beautiful Western that questions life and death in the changing times. LA Noir, gritty detective story set in 1947 LA. And Last of Us Part 2, what is the human condition in a zombie apocalypse? Book it.
Damn. I recommend Nightcrawler with Jake Gyllenhaal if you are interested in seeing more psychopaths depicted on screen in a very disturbing and realistic way. Hell or High Water if you just can't get enough of West Texas. You just want to see that big sky country. And I recommend The Road by Cormac McCarthy if you love that bleak sense of just what the hell is even the point.
I'm definitely reading that.
It's good. It's a good book.
Might check it out. I've
Book
got
club.
Book club.
Oh, dude, new podcast. First
book podcast. Yeah.
first book
welcome,
podcast.
Welcome to the Book Club podcast.
Where we read books and then talk about them. I mean, it's no worse than what we're doing right now. So for my three, I've got, if you like the Coen brothers, we've got Inside Llewyn Davis. If you like Surprise Woody, we've got Triangle of Sadness. And if you love people with bad haircuts, we've got Fast 9. Sean, thank you guys. It's been a pleasure. The S Rank podcast coming soon, coming now.
Soon. Yep.
Coming in hot to a podcast.
Hopefully,
depository.
hopefully
to a
by the time
headphones
this is
near
out,
you.
we'll at
Yeah.
least having a place. We're looking to soft launch. This is really our first public announcement, or maybe second, but first one that matters.
What
And,
bigger platform to do it on than the Canon, an essential
Dude.
movie podcast or essential
Shout
movie
out.
podcast? But yeah, shout out what? Shout out who?
Shout out to Canon.
Shout it out. Yeah. Shout it out loud.
Just shout it all out.
Just
shout.
Let
You
it
make
all
me
out.
wanna.
Please. Oh, different song.
Was that Tears for Fears?
Yeah, it sure was.
Fuck yeah, they're awesome, dudes. Looking forward to checking out your show. Hopefully, we'll have you guys back on the Canon once S Rank is fully up
Is
and
up and
running.
running. Yeah.
No Banana Suit. We'll
Yeah.
catch you on Twitch,
Twitch.tv/no banana suits. Also on Twitter.
and TikTok and Instagram. Or
Yep. TikTok. My Instagram's there, but it's kind of meh.
follow him on Twitter, Welsh. We might be seeing some Twitch streaming from you, but
You
until
betcha.
then, we'll look out for you on S Rank, and we can catch you on Twitter as well.
Yes, sir. Twitter and Instagram at Sean Welsh Brown, SeanWelsh, Brown like the color.
I love it, my dudes. Thank you again.
Dude,
It's been
thank
an
you.
absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone
Until
at
the next
Screen
time.
Age as well.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Thanks for making it happen.